imagine if I missed that? That would have sucked. You would have had to watch the whole time. Was me having something in my beard to be like, "How? It's right there. Right? Just get it out. Get it out!"
Is there such thing as a bad cigar? Well, I don't know. Let's talk about it. You're tuned in to Smokin' Revelry. Hello. What is going on, everyone? You are tuned in, as I said before, to Smokin' Revelry. Smokin' Revelry is sponsored by Pariah Cigars and Casa Cueva Cigars, from our casa to yours. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you coming and checking out the channel. If you're new here, please be sure to subscribe and also like this video. Drop a comment. Let's start a conversation. I respond to every comment, so please talk to me. I'm here, and I will definitely engage with you if you drop a comment. Now, I asked the question, is there such a thing as a bad cigar? Well, honestly, that's kind of a tough question to answer, just because I haven't, in my personal experience, ever had what you would call a bad cigar. Actually, I'm kind of lying about that. There is one cigar in particular that I have had, and it's barely even worth mentioning, and I'm going to give you the short version of this story, because, I mean, it's kind of become, in a weird way, a part of, like, you know, the formerly dad smoking cigars and now Smokin' Revelry lore, if you will. I don't think that... I'm probably thinking myself a little too important than I actually am. But, you know, I've told a number of stories a number of times, ones that a lot of you guys know and others you guys haven't heard yet. And again, if you're new here, there's a lot of stories that you don't know that I'll probably tell at some point. Basically, this story, as it goes, when I initially was starting to do cigar social media, cigar media in general, I had just left a job that I had held for like 11 years. The longest I'd ever held a job. And I've been at this company for a long time, but life was moving along, life was changing. I had to, you know, find a job closer to home because this one was like an hour commute and it just wasn't going to work. And as kind of a celebratory acknowledgement of the fact that I was kind of moving forward in life and a new chapter, my wife decided to buy me a box of cigars. Now, this was a box that I had seen on Cigars International, and the box in question was one that I had seen on their clearance page. This is how I found out that you probably shouldn't necessarily shop on the clearance page. I mean, if you're looking for something on a budget, you don't want to spend too much money, you can go to the clearance page on Cigars International, but I would recommend actually like buying more well-known brands if you're going to go on clearance. What we bought, what my wife bought, what I ended up getting was not well known at all. I'm not even going to mention the name because I've honestly kind of forgotten the name. Anyway, they were machine-made cigars. There were these little petite Corona Maduros, and there was I think there was like 50, 55 in the box, which was a lot, and it was going for only $40. My wife ordered them, they arrived, I was really happy and excited and stuff like that, so I tried them, and the first time I tried them, they seemed pretty good. But this was long before I developed my palate, long before I really started to discover like really good cigars, quality cigars, and I would soon discover that these cigars were not quality. As much as I hate to say that, I mean, this company's completely non-existent now. They're not around anymore, so I'm not going to be pissing off some manufacturer out there because I'm saying these cigars were shit. But that's essentially what they were. I had my dad, the guy who got me into cigars to begin with, try a couple, and he said he couldn't even get through like an eighth of the first one because he said it tasted like dirt, and he called them dirt sticks. And after smoking some better quality cigars, I realized that these cigars were not that good. They were the first cigars that I ever just threw away without going through them, without finishing all of them. Just, I came to realize that they were such poor quality that, like I said, they were machine made. I don't even really know what kind of tobacco was used. All I know is that they were these, like, again, little petite Maduros. And you know, you guys are probably going to laugh at this a little. You know how, like, on packs of gum, it has, like, that tab you pull, and it's, like, the little red line that goes all the way around the packaging, and it kind of breaks, it opens it up in the middle, and you peel off the plastic on the top and on the bottom of the gum pack. That's what the cellophane on, that's what the cello on these cigars did. You pulled the tab in the middle and you pulled apart the plastic on these cigars. I'd never seen anything like that on a cigar before or since. And yeah, it was just kind of, it was so, they were disgusting. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Those were the most disgusting cigars I'd ever smoked. But among the hundreds and hundreds of cigars I've smoked over the past few years, that is saying something, because there's so many cigars out there to try. And the fact that I've only had one really bad experience, like in terms of like flavor and quality, one really bad experience out of hundreds, I mean, that is really saying something. Which is where we kind of step into the objective nature of how we classify a cigar as being good or not so good. I mean, I very seldom ever hear of anyone saying that a cigar sucks. I mean, I've heard it. I don't hear it too often. I'm one of those people who, I'm not necessarily what you call Switzerland, and like I'm neutral, like, oh, well, you know, all cigars are good, and blah, blah, blah. The way that I classify it for me personally, and I feel like a lot of people in the cigar community do the same thing, it's whether or not I enjoy the cigar or if I'd ever smoke it again. You know, is it a cigar that I find so enjoyable that I'd return to it again and again and again? Or is it one of those cigars that, well, I tried it, it was just okay, or it didn't really ring my bell or anything like that. I just decided to kind of like leave it on the shelf of the brick and mortar or wherever I got it from. Some cigars don't cut it, but that's just for you personally. I do remember early on when I first was getting started doing cigar media and all that kind of stuff, you know, I really wanted to know what was good, what I should try and stuff like that. And, you know, that's when I really started getting introduced to boutique cigars, cigars that weren't as well known, but were starting to make a name for themselves. Obviously, that's where I got introduced to, you know, brands like Casa Cuevas and others. You know, at the time, you know, a lot of these brands were still pretty small. Now, you know, in the grand scheme of things, these brands are still relatively small, but they're starting to become household names. And honestly, they have earned that, more than earned that. They've worked very hard to create a quality product for people to enjoy. And, you know, a lot of these smaller brands are becoming big names now. But early on, I wasn't exactly what you call objective. Like, I was more or less allowing people to tell me, like, you know, you should try this and don't try that. Don't smoke that. That one sucks. That one's terrible. Don't smoke that. And, you know, it may have been a bigger brand name, a brand name that was a little bit more popular, more well-known, or then again, it may have been a lesser-known one, but I had people telling me left and right, it's like, don't try that. You don't want to try that. It's gross. It's disgusting. Don't smoke that. And at first I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, all right. Well, yeah, no, for sure, because I trusted these people, whoever, you know, and I'm not going to mention any names in particular, but the people in question, or, you know, I would kind of listen to and buy into what they were saying wholesale, because I'm just like, well, you know what? They obviously know what they're talking about, so why wouldn't I trust their word? Why wouldn't I go along with what they're saying? But then I would realize down the line, I'm like, why would I allow what they're saying stop me from trying something I've never had, and me judging for myself? For all I know, I'm going to love it. And after the first couple of years, that's when I kind of started, you know, well, what I should have been doing, thinking a little bit more for myself. I'll be honest, sometimes I get swept away by fads and trends and stuff like that, even within the cigar community, because, you know, you hear about these really great cigars or cigars that people are raving about, and you want to try them. The cigar I'm smoking right now is the El Pulpo from Artesano del Tabaco, the makers of the Viva la Vida which was a project that they collaborated with AJ Fernandez on. AJ Fernandez blended their cigars. Gus and Billy are really great guys, and they know what they're doing. They make a quality product, and the Viva La Vida was excellent. I really enjoyed it. And the El Pulpo is no exception in that regard. I obviously am like more than halfway through it, and it has been an enjoyable cigar all throughout. Now, is it possible there's somebody out there who's tried the El Pulpo and they didn't really like it? There's a chance. There's a pretty good chance, actually. Just because it's popular, just because I like it, or just because a number of other people like it, doesn't mean that there's going to be a handful or more people who think the cigar is, well, less than great. They might even say the cigar sucks. I personally think that is not something you should say. It's kind of part of my own little personal belief system regarding cigars and how you talk about them, your treatment of them, especially as it relates to other people who are getting into cigars or trying new cigars and things like that. I will never ever bash a brand other than that like really crappy brand that I mentioned earlier that made the really poor quality cigars. They went out of business for obvious reasons. That's the only brand I've ever bashed. Now there's other brands I've tried where I'm just like, it's okay. Not really, not terrible, not great. That's usually where I sit when it comes anywhere near describing a cigar as, quote, bad or terrible or it sucks or anything like that. It is completely subjective, and it's hard to be objective when you have your own preferences. My preferences have stayed pretty consistent throughout my entire cigar smoking journey, but at the same time I am always willing to try something new, something I've never tried, a brand I've never heard of, or maybe even retrying a brand that, back in the day I tried it, wasn't crazy about it, but it's been a long time since I smoked it. So, maybe it's time to give it another go, see if I actually enjoy it this time around, or if my palate has changed enough or evolved enough that when I pick up that cigar and start smoking it, it's going to be completely different than what I remember. But some of the best advice I can give you is that you just need to keep trying different cigars and try not to let people sway you too hard in one direction or the other, because you may have a friend or a couple friends who are introducing you to really great cigar brands, but at the same time they might also be telling you, don't touch that cigar brand over there, don't even think about smoking it because it is god awful. I really don't think that any of us have any place telling anybody, friend or acquaintance or whatever, I don't think it's our place to tell people, yeah, don't smoke that cigar over there because it's shit or whatever. Because for all you know, your friend that you're telling that, you would be forcing them to miss out on a really great experience. Just because you didn't like it doesn't mean that they're not going to like it. So I really strongly recommend not doing that. And I also strongly recommend, if you have a friend who says stuff like that, kind of take what they're saying with a grain of salt. That's their preference. They don't think that cigar is worth trying. They don't think that brand's really anything to write home about. But you have every right, and it's your own prerogative, to try something different, something new. Even if another person whose judgment you trust, they still may not know what they're talking about, because it may be a cigar you actually fall in love with. It goes without saying, there is so much out there to try, so many brands to sample, so many different manufacturers to consider. And it is honestly a little bit criminal when we kind of act as gatekeepers, or we straight up block people from trying something different, because we know what we like and we think we know what the best cigars are to smoke, and so we tell people, it's like, these are the ones you should smoke, you should stay away from those. I really don't think that that's appropriate, personally speaking. You like what you like, you don't like what you don't like, and that's perfectly fine. But I really don't think we have any business telling people what cigars are, the best and what cigars suck, because, again, it's all subjective, all completely subjective, and you can't be objective in choosing different cigars when you got people kind of shoving their opinions and thoughts in your face, saying, as if they're your own, and they're not. you haven't formed an opinion on that brand or manufacturer that they mentioned that they say, well, they suck. They probably don't suck. They probably never sucked. They just don't like it, which is fine. But you might, and someone else you know might. It's those types of opinions and that kind of talk that I tend to kind of just like nod my head at, smile and wave, boys, smile and wave. Because for all I know, the cigar is great. I may try it though, and I may end up coming to the same conclusion that my friend or, associate did. But for all I know, that may be another brand that I add to my rotation on the regular. So, kind of taking the long way around the barn to answer the question, is there such a thing as a bad cigar? I mean, I suppose there is. Again, I have only had the one legit not good, really, that experience with a cigar. But I feel like that is such a grand exception. Because again, it was a brand that no one had ever heard of. I feel like it barely existed, or it existed way back when, and it just couldn't continue on. They couldn't continue making business. And so they shut everything down, and they had this like excessive stock of cigars that they wanted to get rid of. And so they were selling them off at a discount. And I just happened to be one of the poor schmucks who bought it and tried it initially. Thought it was good. Over time, realized it was crap. At least as far as I'm concerned. I mean, again, subjective. So subjective. But I can honestly say that I have not had a really, truly bad experience with a cigar since. I have smoked cigars that were amazing. I have smoked cigars that were good. I have smoked cigars that were just okay. And then I've smoked cigars, and I think that, this is the true bottom of it, of this list, or at least my criteria. They're cigars I probably wouldn't revisit. Like, personally speaking, I'm just like, not my cigar. Not a cigar I really enjoyed that much, but I know other people do, so I'm just going to keep my thoughts to myself. Like, if somebody asks me, I'm like, I tried it, wasn't for me. That's it. I'm not going to go that much deeper than that because, again, someone else I know may love it. And if I start talking shit about that brand or manufacturer, I'm going to look like an asshole. And I really don't want to look like an asshole. And so, if you like it, great. I may not like it. You may not like it, but I may love it. Again, so subjective. That is exactly how this works. It is a very subjective thing when you are kind of figuring out, deciding what you like, what you don't like, and odds are it's not going to match up exactly to that other person your really good friend that you smoke cigars with, that family member you smoke cigars with. I mean, I know of people who only smoke one brand. I've even met people who only smoke one particular cigar of that brand. That's all they smoke. I think that's bananas because there's so much out there to try, but that's what they like. That's the only cigar they really appreciate, and they don't feel like deviating or going outside of that box. Okay, fine. You do you. It's not my life, and I would much rather try different cigars, so it's one of the most subjective things ever. Now, I'm honestly curious, do you guys think that there's such a thing as a bad cigar, or just merely a cigar you wouldn't come back to? I would really love to know your thoughts, so please drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's start a dialogue. It all comes down to what you like, what you enjoy, and that is perfectly good for you, even if it's not good for somebody else. Who cares? It's your cigar journey, so enjoy it. And find out what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, and that will basically decide what ends up in your humidor, pure and simple. Just stay open. That's honestly, again, another one of the best pieces of advice I can give you as a cigar smoker. Just stay open. Try new cigars. Try different cigars. Try cigars you've heard of but have never had a chance to try. Try them all if you can. I mean, you'll never get to try them all. There's too fucking many, which is wonderful. But, my list keeps getting longer and longer and longer without fail. But that's not a bad thing. That just means that there's a lot to try, and I look forward to trying as much as I can in this lifetime. So, keep trying. That's really all I have to talk about for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you are new here, if you're new to cigar smoking, I really hope that these videos are, giving you some decent insight. They're kind of highlighting or illuminating certain things you may or may not know about cigars or things you haven't tried yet. I hope my suggestions, tutorials, and advice are helpful. And if they are, I would love to continue making videos that will help you in your cigar journey as you decide what you like, what you don't like, and as you get acclimated. It's a lot of fun, and I just want to have fun myself, and I want you to have a good time as well. So let's keep the good times rolling. Let's enjoy cigars and have conversations while we're at it. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you so much. You guys are what makes Smokin' Revelry what it is, and I appreciate your support. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys are all staying safe, you're staying healthy and happy, keeping it smoky as always. And of course, I will see you guys next time.